Welcome to Get Ready for the Dress. This is Coach J. I am so excited to have you here with me going through this journey. We're going to laugh, we're going to cry, we're going to have fun right here in this safe space, empowering each other, inspiring, elevating. We're going to grow together right here. Whatever dress you may be facing, you're getting ready for. It could be a marriage, it could be a divorce, it could be singleness, whatever it is, we're going to experience it together. So thank you for joining me at Get Ready for the Dress.
You decided or you said yes to the call of my interview. I can't wait to hear your story. I know just a little bit, but go ahead and do me a favor, introduce yourself and tell us how you met your awesome husband on MySpace.
My name's Angela Riley, and although it wasn't really a dating app, people were using it for a dating app back in the day to find people to date, MySpace. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one he was hitting up, but he just sent me an IM, and I was kind of snooty about, because all kinds of guys were doing that back then. And he just happened to get my attention because he liked to rock climb. And my mom and I, we kind of have a difficult relationship. We had a nice conversation about rock climbing like the week before, which was so bizarre. I mean, who talks to their moms about rock climbing? And so to me, that was like a sign. So I was like, oh, I got to open this up. So I opened up the little note, and it was some goofy pickup line. I think he said, I think he kept it somewhere. He has it. And it says, it looks like you prefer a more tropical latitude, which is, I think it's a line out of Jimmy Buffett. I'm not a big Jimmy Buffett person, but I'm pretty sure it comes out of a Jimmy Buffett song. And I don't know. I clicked on his profile before I answered him, just check him out and see what was going on. And we just IM'd for like all day long that day. And then I think we met like the next week or something. So I wasn't really like looking. It just kind of happened.
Okay. Happen is good. That's kind of like how it happened for me. I wasn't really looking. It just kind of happened.
But what app were you on?
I was actually on Match.com, girl.
I tried that one, and I met some people on it. And in fact, one of them I'm still friends with, but I just never met anybody with like chemistry. I don't know. And so I feel like when I was looking, not the right person came, but when I wasn't looking, that's when he came along,
Right. Same here. Same here. And that's the thing. I didn't want to be on it, but I promised my cousin I would be on it for 30 days. And then she said, if you don't find anybody, you can come off. So I was like, okay. And then I met my husband. But and it was all good. But I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
You weren't looking. He found you. You said yes. Was there any like fears once you said, you kept messaging
to
him
go out to
daily?
meet him?
Yeah. Was there
No,
any fears or
we IM'd like all day. Like he didn't eat.
Okay.
Like I sat at my desk, which was also an unusual thing. Like I felt like it was meant to be. I was working a lot back then. And so it was a Saturday morning. I remember it was like 7:00 in the morning. I remember I was eating bagels and lox. And it was just so like, I don't ever forget it because I was never at my desk. I was usually working. And for some reason at 7:00 in the morning, I'd get on and I see this message from him. And I mean, we literally, like he was supposed to meet his friend later that day. We probably IM'd for like 12 hours, like all day long,
Oh my God.
So then I think at the end of all that, I finally decided to give him my phone number. And then he called me that night. And I think we decided to meet like maybe that Monday or something. So it was like 3 days later we met. But I was doing the online dating thing. So I had like a routine. I would meet him, and he jokes about this because I've told him I would always make sure I met him at like to get coffee or something because it's not like a full meal. So if you didn't have chemistry
Mm-hmm.
with him, and then I'd always get there a little earlier than what I said so I could buy my own coffee because I don't want to be,
Right.
them buying me anything and thinking that I had to spend time with them for buying me a coffee. So I, I had like a whole formula. I got up there early. We met at Kima at this Starbucks, and I was sitting there with my coffee when he walked up, and he just thinks it's funny. I told him after the fact about that, but I'm like, yeah, that was my routine. That way I could dip out if I didn't, feel like a love connection. Because you can tell. I mean, you either have chemistry with somebody or
Mm-hmm.
you don't immediately. So that's the only drawback on online dating that I found is that you may get along great with a dude on, the phone or IM, but you don't know until you meet him in person if that chemistry's there. So,
Exactly. And you're right, because I met my husband was my third date, but he was like the third person I actually talked to. And the thing is, we text all day. Like we text for like 3 days, and then we talked on the phone, and then we met at Starbucks, and we spent 5 hours at Starbucks. 5 hours. I never forget. I was like, oh, I gotta go meet my mom and my nieces and take them shopping. And so I did that, and then we could reconnect that evening, and we talked all evening, and then we actually had our official day like 2 days later, and then the rest is history. So how long did you guys date before you got married?
we dated like almost 3 years because we were engaged for 6 months. So we
Okay.
met, and it was like on our 3-year anniversary. We would go to Enchanted Rock every like around the time we met.
Mm,
The day that we met was 2 days before his birthday. So always in October we would go to Enchanted Rock for our, anniversary of meeting / his birthday, and we go camp out and climb. And so we were on our way out there, and so that was the 3-year anniversary of us dating. And then we got engaged and we were married 6 months later.
okay, okay, okay. Well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Now, what was the most romantic thing, not the engagement, after maybe doing the dating or after marriage?
I don't know. The engagement was very romantic, but I don't know. He's not
Okay.
that guy that does all these romantic things, The engagement was
Hmm.
like he's very old school, and
Okay.
that was, but he's just not that guy, you know. But I can't think of
Hmm.
anything. He does
I get it.
stuff. Have you read the Five Love Languages?
Yes, I love
So
it.
his is like acts of service, So like that's how he
Well, that makes sense
expresses
because he's
love.
a firefighter, right?
Yeah, he does stuff for me, like, and so I had to wrap my brain around the fact that he's not that guy. Like he's like not about all those romantic stuff. He's actually anti-Valentine's. He thinks that that is a put on by Hallmark, and he feels like it's forces men to be, romantic on one day where he feels like he should be just everything he does for me every day is what matters, not that one day. So he's not that guy. But so I had to, and for me, I was raised different, because you always go by what your dad, I was a daddy's girl, and my dad was always that way. So I
Mhm,
had to like change my way of thinking with that. And so, after here we are, we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary next month. And
mhm,
or actually this month, it's April. But
mhm,
I just had, it took me a while to change my way of thinking, is that okay, he doesn't do this. This is what I have. This is what I get. I get to not worry about anything. I get to not
mhm,
worry about, my car. I don't have to fool with
mhm,
anything. He's very handy. He can build anything, fix anything. So that's what I get. I don't get that
mhm.
romantic stuff. So, you know, it took me a while though. It caused
But
us problems in the beginning because I was, I had to change my way of thinking. So,
yeah. But it's funny you say that because this is me. When my husband and I got together, I told him, don't buy me nothing for Valentine's Day. I'm not that girl. I'm not that girl. I'm not a flower girl. Don't buy me flowers. If you want to give me anything, give me a card. I'm a word person. I like stuff that touch my heart.
uh-huh,
And I said, so we don't celebrate Valentine's Day by my choice, by
uh-huh.
my choice. And he was just looking at me like, what? I'm like, no, it's just every day should be a day of love for us, which it is. So and only thing we celebrate is our birthdays and our anniversary. All
Mhm.
the other things like Christmas, we celebrate Christmas with the family, but it's
Yeah.
not about gifts and stuff like that because I feel like, it's over, it's over the top.
Commercialized.
And that
Yeah.
shouldn't be, yeah, we shouldn't be, that's not of me and him. So he get it, but he was shocked about Valentine's Day. I was like, yeah, I'm not that person, So he had to adjust too because I never forget he bought me some roses or something. I was like, I am not a flower girl, I appreciate it. I just don't like, I mean, because it dies,
Yeah.
I'm a
And they're expensive
I like the
too.
memory. Yes. Give me
Yeah.
a card. I have
Yeah.
every card he ever bought me. I have every card he ever bought me.
Now I do like
So,
cards, and so he'll get me cards because he knows like I'm like, at the very least, I want a card. And so he does that, but it's not like his thing. He only does that because he knows that I like it. So
yeah.
yeah.
But at least he
But that's
does
just
it
part of
because
being
you like
married. You
it.
gotta, it's give and take, and you gotta figure out, okay, this person's like this, and they're not exactly like me. That's why I like that 5 love languages. I think it's a good reminder that, they're not exactly like you. You gotta change, and
Exactly.
you can't expect to change somebody. So,
We did the 5 love language too. And
uh
we have similar, like I'm a touch, he's a touch. Um, that kind of stuff. So I'm like you, I have to remember who I'm talking to or who
yeah,
I'm, interacting with because, I'm different in some ways than he's not, he's a little more sensitive in certain things than I am. And I'm like, so I have to be careful,
yeah,
and do it in a loving way, and be, and I always try to do everything in love because I mean this, you and I, this is not our first go around, so
yeah,
it's different.
hmm,
And the thing is just when you met your match, that's why I tell people I met my match. My dad and my family loved him from day one. They were like, "That's the one." I was like, "We'll see about that." It was funny because I was wearing an engagement ring, still saying, "Yeah, we'll see about that," because we met, girl. We were engaged 2 weeks later.
wow,
Yeah, we were engaged 2 weeks, 2 weeks later. I had met he had met my family and they were in love with him and saying, "Oh, he's it, this and that." And I was thinking, "Oh, we'll see," but I'm still wearing his ring saying we'll see. And he was asking me to marry him every week. And I was like, okay. And I was the one holding up everything. But 6 months later, we got married. We got married 6 months later
yeah,
and we're going on 8 years. We're going on 8 years. So it's and that was his way of dating. That was his way of dating online. That was not my way of dating. So, it was all new to me. And I was that person who would say people would say they dated online and I was that critical person think, "Oh, you people are crazy online." I was that person.
yeah,
But you never should say anything. Never say what you never do.
yeah. I've had
But
a
I
lot of
was that
friends meet
person.
people online, though. I mean, because we're all too busy to get out there, especially as you get older. You're either working,
Mhm.
going out. Come on. But I had
Right.
a friend
You're
even meet someone on Tinder, which to me, well, that was always like the hookup thing. But she actually met her guy that she's living with right now on Tinder. So, sometimes you never know. You may be just going for something light and it turns into something. I'm a big believer if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. It'll happen.
It's meant to be.
Yep.
I believe I'm with you in that. I am a big believer for that. So you guys, 10 years later, one kid, right?
Uh-huh. Well, I have mine
Okay, one
from my first marriage and, yeah, we have Eden.
kid.
So
Okay. And how old is Eaton?
she's 7.
7. And your oldest one is how old?
She's 17.
17. Oh my gosh, she's
Yeah.
a teenager.
Yep. She's
Oh
supposed to,
my
yeah,
God.
she's graduating this year, but they're not going to get a graduation because of COVID. So,
Well, it hopefully it comes through.
yeah.
So what do you remember about the first date other than your first date, your official first date?
I consider that our official first date. We met for coffee and then we walked around the boardwalk and then we went out to a bar and had some drinks and that to me that
Oh,
was our
okay.
first date. And
Okay.
because I don't, after that, I mean, we just had a really good chemistry and we just kept seeing each other, Ours is a little
Yeah.
more bumpy. We were not getting engaged at 2 weeks, that's for sure, because I feel, I mean, we didn't become exclusive to one another for like a year, like, because I was busy
Oh.
working, and yeah, ours was not, like, there was definitely chemistry there. We liked to spend time with each other, but I was so busy. I had two jobs. I was working like 60 hours a week. I had Tristan. I didn't like to have people around, and honestly, I was still dating around, and so was he in the first year,
Yeah.
and we weren't like trying to, again, we were not, I wasn't trying to get married for sure. I said I was never getting married again. And he was just fresh out of a long-term relationship as well. So I think we were both just kind of,
Mhm.
it took us like a year to settle upon each other and decide, okay, I'm ready to, kind of settle down a little bit. Plus, my dad had just got diagnosed with cancer. And so I just had so much going on. I was not trying to have a steady boyfriend. I wanted something light
Yeah.
and fun. And yeah, let's go out and have
Yeah.
some fun and spend time together. But I was not about definitely not trying to get married again. So that came
Right.
later.
Right.
After that first year, it was really rough. I lost my dad, and just a lot was going on. And then after my dad was gone, I think things kind of started to settle down. Like, I couldn't concentrate on
Mhm.
anything else as long as my dad was sick. And so once
Right.
he had passed away, and I grieved him for a while, and I kind of was like, well, what am I doing here? And at a year, right at our year mark, about just over a year, I made the conscious decision. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to
Yeah.
settle down and look at this. When you got major stuff going
Mm.
on in your life, like a sick parent, and I was a daddy's girl, so like it was rough on me. So, it
Yeah.
would have been an injustice anyway to try to have a relationship during that time. So, yeah. And then after that
Yeah.
year, we
So,
dated steady for the 2 years, and then we got engaged.
so who came to so you set him down and said, okay, I'm ready to just take a look and see if we can take this to the next level, or was that him? I'm ready to stop dating other people, and I
I don't
want you
know
to
that we
stop dating other
necessarily,
people.
I don't know. I don't know that we necessarily came to sat down, and because we never really talked about seeing other people, we just kind of knew it, and neither of us
Mm-hmm.
wanted to like say anything about it. So there was a lot of resentment, a lot of gameplay in that first year.
Mm-hmm.
And neither one of
Mm-hmm.
us was really willing to, until I think there was like a blow up, and I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
we're either going forward or we're not. And I can't remember exactly
Mm-hmm.
what it was, but I was just like, I'm over this. I mean, my dad, I've
Mm-hmm.
had some months to grieve him, and I was ready to, and I was actually paying attention to Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I really wasn't paying attention to him because my dad being sick, that was my number one priority. And I really didn't care whether he came around or not at that point. I'm like, I enjoyed his company, but
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I was fine with being single for the rest of my life. I was having fun being single. And then after my dad passed away, and it was been several months, and I grieved him, and then I kind of was paying more attention to him. And,
Mm-hmm.
then at that point, I was like, all right, I'm kind of over. We're either moving forward or we're not. So it probably was me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cause,
Yeah.
at first I was on the same page. Yeah, whatever. Let's keep this light and casual. But then after my dad was gone, I could put my attention on him. I noticed, okay, this isn't,
Yeah.
I'm either ending this
Yeah.
or we're moving forward in a different direction. Cause I'm done playing around with you, basically.
Right. 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 So when you look at him today, you're like, oh, I can't believe I met you on MySpace,
Oh
or we're
yeah.
here in this space
Yeah,
for 10 years,
I'm almost a little embarrassed to admit it, because people are I'm like, yeah, I met my husband
No.
on MySpace, because MySpace isn't even around anymore. It's like a very like you date yourself. Like, if you met somebody on MySpace, everybody knows about the time frame that was. It was in the early 2000s.
Right.
And then it kind of came and went
Yeah.
within a couple years, sort of like all these dating apps. It's like one will get big, and then people quit using it, and then they'll go on to the next one. Like, I've got
Mhm.
single friends now,
Mhm.
and they were, Tinder, of course, was the hookup one. And then back, I don't even think, is Match around anymore? I don't even know. That was a thing back then.
Oh.
Now it's Bumble, Hinge. I mean, I get this from all my girlfriends that are single. They're like, yeah, or
Yeah, and Clover. I just found out about one called
I haven't
Clover.
heard of that one. I heard the Bumble and the Hinge because, like, my single girlfriends that are out there, that pretty much, if you're a single professional woman, you're on a dating app.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, all my single girlfriends, I've got one that's kind of casually dating a dude, and she's on one, they're all on them.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
Yeah,
if you know a single
that's the
girlfriend,
thing.
they're
That's
all
the
on
new
them.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and girlfriend and male friends. That is the thing, because I have some male friends, and they'll be like, "Hey, can you help me screen this girl and this and
Uh,
that?" And I'm like,
yeah.
"Sure." Like, I'm an expert. I'm not even an expert.
Yeah.
I'm like,
If you're
"Sure."
single, you're
Like,
on an app.
one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. That's the new thing. But like I said, I was that person that was kind of afraid because I wasn't educated
Well,
about it.
I think it
But
was
then I
new
ended up
back
marrying
then
somebody.
too. I think it was new back then. I
Yeah.
don't remember hearing about it before, when I was recently. So I got divorced in 2003. So I was divorced from 2003 to, I met Greg in 2006, and then we got married in 2010.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, that 3 years right there, I was just, doing whatever I wanted until I met him, and I just kind of settled down. But yeah, I was enjoying being a
So
single too much, probably. So,
and that makes two of us.
hmm
That
so
makes
that's
two
why
of
I
us.
know that he was meant to be, because I was, it was time for me to settle down.
That makes two of us. That's why I say God did not want me to be
Yeah.
single, because He brought my husband right along. And I was like, and I was still fighting it tooth and nail. I was like, we'll see. But I was spending every day with him, and I
Yeah.
was still saying, we'll see, and spending every day with him. Every day.
Yeah.
I lived down the street from his job. We met for lunch. We had dinner together. We just hung out every day for 6 months. So, and I'm just like, okay. So I really didn't have time to date anyone else. I wasn't trying to date anyone else, to be honest. But I had no time to date anyone else either. And I mean, I knew he was the one. But I was still holding
Well, I
on,
think that
to
you
the
fight it
singleness.
more after you've been divorced too, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, because you
Exactly.
remember what it was like to be married. And us women, it's nice being, there's some niceness to the freedom, you know. Even now, I
Mm-hmm.
talk to my girlfriends who are
Exactly.
single, and if me and Greg are fussing about something stupid, I'm like, oh, don't you want to join me in marital bliss? And so there's like positives to, and it goes the same, married, unmarried, having kids, not having kids, there's but blessings to both.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like you, or I've got lots of friends. My sister doesn't have any kids, and they do whatever they want, so there's blessings to whatever situation you're in. You just have to find them,
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with you on that. So, what advice would you give to the single ladies today about meeting their mate online?
um I guess it goes back to that same thing, just have your standards, because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys out there just fishing. I mean, Greg was just fishing when he met
Mm-hmm.
me. I know I wasn't the only one. To just know that you're not the only one he's probably talking to if you're just now meeting him,
Mm-hmm.
and that, just keep your standards high. Because I remember, and this sounds snooty, but I looked at his profile. I'm kind of funny about height, and I don't like to date guys that are like not tall. So I looked at his height. So he met that I have my little checklist, my little snooty checklist. And then plus back
Mm-hmm.
then I had a bachelor's degree, and I had dated guys that weren't um educated, and I tried to make that not an
Yeah.
issue because I felt like a snob.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
after dating a few, I always just felt like, man, his hustle is not the same as mine, and that would always
Yeah.
stick in my
Mm-hmm.
craw. And I felt snotty about it, but it's just one of my things. I have to feel like you're working as hard as me or harder, and so when I saw
Yeah.
Greg, he was a firefighter. Most of them are not educated, but he had a bachelor's degree, and I was like, oh man. So like I just have my
Yeah.
standards, and so Don't lower your standards because it's just not going to work out for you. And I don't know, just in the beginning, just know that
I'm
he's
with you.
talking to other people and just expect that. Because if you come out with that expectation, then you're not going to get your little heart broken, you know?
Right, right,
So,
right. You're not the only one. I'm the same way. One of my good friends I worked with, it was a guy. Oh, he was like my hangout buddy. And he would always say, Jeniece, your standards are too high. You're never going to meet the guy you want. And I was like, yes, I am, because I deserve to have that person. And there's nothing wrong with me having
yeah.
standards. So I held to my standards. And then not only that, when I met my husband, I never forget our first conversation over coffee. We had a conversation and I told him, I said, look, I'm not trying to get married. And he laid his cards on the table. He told me he was looking for a wife and he was looking for, he wanted to be
Is this
married.
his
And I said,
first
well, look,
marriage?
I am, no, this was his
Okay.
second. So we both had just been
Yeah.
divorced. But I told him, I said, look, I am a unique type of person. I'm not your typical woman. I'm not your everyday girl. I'm unique. There's a whole lot of layers to me, and I need every layer to be loved. And if you cannot do that, then we just need to go our separate ways right now. And he looked at me. I never forget. He said, I can do that by default because that's the way I love. And I said, okay, we'll see. And he held up his deal ever since.
And you know, another thing is that
But
you
you
had
right.
stuff going on too, just like me. And my husband
Mhm.
he tells me over and over because my sister-in-law, she just like as soon as she meets someone, she just all about them and she's available at any moment. They can snap their fingers and she's there. And Greg said what he
Mm-mm.
remembers about dating me is that I had so much going on that he felt like he was special if I made time for him. Like there is something
Mhm.
to that pursuit. Don't be available, you know? And I wasn't playing a game. That
Mm-mm.
was just me. I was not I
Right.
did not have time for him and he couldn't just snap his fingers and me come over. He had to wait for me to
Right.
work him into his schedule. And it wasn't me being a game player trying to get a husband. That was just the way I was. So have your own hustle going. That's all because men
Yes.
appreciate that. And the
All
fact
right.
that you said that to your husband, he probably appreciated that. He's like, well, she's got her own stuff going on. There's something to that. And
Oh yeah.
like I said, I watch our sister-in-law. She going through, just watching her date. I'm just like, golly, she needs to change
Yeah.
up her game. She's not doing this right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
but some of those
Give
women
us some
just
lessons,
need
sister.
somebody to be with, though. That's the problem. You and I are probably more independent. If you're independent, you don't
Mm-hmm.
need someone, then you're not going to be that way. And I was okay being alone. And that's the biggest
Girl, me
advice is that
too.
you have to be okay being on your own before anybody wants to bring you in because they see that independence and men like that, you know?
Girl, that's a dress. You dress that. That is so true. You got because that's what I tell people all the time. I enjoy being single because I have fun with
You know what
me.
I
I
mean?
love entertaining me, just hanging out with me. I had no problem with going to dinner by myself, going to the movie, getting on a plane and traveling to a whole nother country by myself. That was not a
Yeah.
problem. I love being with me. So, and I had said that before I met my husband. I said, Lord, I'm okay if it's just you and I, because if it's just you and I'm gonna be good because I got you and I got
And
me.
that's where everybody needs
So
to
you
get.
right.
And until they're that way, no one's going to want to pursue that because everybody wants that, men included. They want to be okay with
Mhm.
it. And if they can find that in a woman, it helps them to be that way too, I think. You know?
That's what my husband said.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. That's one of the things he said he loved about me is that it was just me, I ain't gonna say I didn't have a care, but I just didn't he don't have to fulfill
Hmm.
me. I fulfill myself. You know what I mean? And I don't have to fulfill him because he had got to a place where he was okay with just being with
Uh-huh.
himself too. So that's why we knew it worked. And not only
Ladies, this interview with my girlfriend was on fire. I enjoyed listening to her story, how she met her husband on Myspace. I enjoyed sharing my story on how I met my husband on Match.com. It was just a great story, love story. She's been married for 10 years. I'm going on 8. And it's just to show you that there is nothing wrong with dating online. That is the new way of dating. Just as long as you keep your standards, your boundaries, you have a process in place. You heard her say that she goes to the coffee shop before her date and she would buy her own coffee. I had a process in place too. I would do a background check. I would I would meet at a coffee shop too. And then once the background check came back, that's when I would set up my actual meeting. But, I had standards. She had standards. You heard her say she wouldn't date nobody without a degree because she tried that and it just didn't work. I wouldn't date anyone with kids because I tried that and that just didn't work. So, there's nothing wrong with having standards. Nothing wrong with setting boundaries too. There's nothing wrong with having a checklist of the things you want. Have some non-negotiables, and also have some deal breakers. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for tuning in for Get Ready for the Dress. Look forward to hearing your feedback. We have part 2 of I Found Love Online, April 24th. Look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you.